Have you ever seen this happen? A man who seems to have it all, looks status confidence, yet still can't hold on to a relationship. He says all the right things, does nothing wrong, treats her well, and still she starts to pull away, becomes distant, then disappears like she was never really there. You might think women are impossible to understand, but the truth is they're not. The problem is men keep looking in the wrong direction. Most men believe that in order to be loved, they have to say the right words, do the right things, and become the best version of themselves. But the thing that makes a woman think about you every night, that makes her feel safe in your arms, that makes her come back to you. When the whole world turns its back, isn't any of that. It lies in something almost invisible. In the small gestures 99% of men overlook, in the silent signals women always feel but rarely speak of. That's why you're here. This article isn't for those looking for tricks or tactics. It's for the men who've been hurt and still don't know why. For those willing to put aside their ego and relearn how to connect. Not through logic, but through the grounded presence of a man who knows who he is. And when you grasp the 10 secrets that follow, you won't have to try so hard to make an impression, because you'll become the kind of man a woman never forgets, even if you don't do anything special. 1. The touch before intimacy, so she feels loved, not demanded. Imagine this. You and her just had a lovely evening. The conversation flowed naturally. She laughed. You felt that spark. You walked her home, sent her a gentle message afterward. And then silence. No reply, no warning. She just disappeared. You wonder, what did I do wrong? But perhaps you didn't do anything wrong. And that's the point. You didn't do anything wrong, but you also didn't do what was right. Most men believe that if the conversation goes well, the connection is built. But for women, emotional closeness doesn't grow from words. It grows from presence, from experience, from the senses. And one of the most overlooked, yet most powerful ways a woman feels loved is through touch. Not the suggestive kind, not the eager, clumsy, or performative kind, but a touch that is quiet, grounded, subtle. A slow glide of your hand across her shoulder when she looks tired. A soft massage on the back of her neck after a long day. Or simply resting your hand gently on hers, saying nothing. These moments, when they come from true presence, say more than any sweet line you could text. They say, I see you, I'm here, you can exhale now. She doesn't need you to be a healer. She doesn't expect you to know every answer. What she craves is your calm attention, your grounded stillness in the now. And that moment doesn't have to last long. It just has to come at the right time. Free of urgency, free of agenda, free of the need to get something from her. It requires that you listen, not just with your ears, but with your body. That you feel not just your desire, but her energy. That you act not from hunger, but from harmony. Marcus Aurelius once said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Let that guide you. Because touch isn't merely an action. It's a signal of presence. It's the quiet strength of a man who doesn't need to push, but simply arrives fully. And when you touch her at the right moment, in the right spirit, you won't need to whisper, I love you. She will feel it. In her skin, in her breath, in the way she softens without even realizing why. That's the power of masculine stillness. And that's what makes her stay. 2. Flirting, not to impress, but to enjoy the moment. Many men treat flirting like a tactic, a tool to win a woman. They recycle jokes they found online. They compliment too often, laugh too much, overperform in hopes of appearing charming, and then they go home. Confused why she didn't seem interested, but here's what they don't understand. She felt it all. Women always feel when you're trying too hard. They're not drawn to performance. They're drawn to presence, to a man who is genuinely there, who's enjoying himself, who doesn't need to be liked in order to feel valuable. Flirting is not a stage. It's not a job interview. It's a dance. You lead, she responds, but both of you should feel relaxed, natural, unforced. When you say something lighthearted like, oh, you love that dish, you probably haven't tried mine yet. You're not proving you're witty. You're inviting her into a playful moment. No pressure, no stakes. Real flirting is when you don't need to win, and yet she wants to keep dancing. You're not looking for approval. You're just present with curiosity, with ease, with freedom. And she can feel that from the moment your eyes meet. Not a hungry stare, not a forced grin. Just a calm glance with a quiet smile, a softness in your body. A peace in your gaze that says, I'm not here to impress, I'm just here. You're not waiting for her reaction. You're not performing. You're simply enjoying the moment you're both sharing. Stoic philosophy says, a man of value is not defined by outcomes. He is defined by how he moves through the world, with presence. So don't flirt to be accepted. Flirt because you're alive, because you're enjoying this very second, fully and freely. That's what makes her feel safe. That's what makes her want to stay longer. So next time you say something funny, don't look for a reaction. Stay with the moment. Because if you're truly enjoying yourself, she will feel it. And sometimes, that joy alone is what makes her think about you long after the first date ends. 3. A gentle stroke through her hair when she's let you close. Some things are so small they barely register. Until they do. Until they stay etched in the memory in ways words never could. Running your fingers through her hair is one of those things. It's not showy. It's not random. It's not done for effect. It's a moment. A quiet moment charged with intimacy. If you're present enough to notice it. The scalp is one of the most sensitive parts of the body. A single slow stroke across her hair, if done at the right time with the right intention, can make her feel seen, connected, understood. But like all things meaningful, this only works when there's emotional grounding behind it. Do it too early, she'll feel off. Do it without presence, it'll feel mechanical, invasive. Do it from ego, she'll pull away. But do it with presence, true grounded presence, and that small touch could quiet a storm inside her heart you didn't even know existed. Picture this. You're sitting with her. The conversation is flowing. Your eyes meet. The space between you is warm and soft. A strand of hair falls across her forehead. You pause, smile, and gently tuck it behind her ear. Slowly, sincerely, without performance. That single moment, if it's real, tells her everything. I'm here. I notice the little things. You can soften now. And for many women, that feeling, the permission to soften beside a man they trust, means more than any gift or compliment ever could. Stoic philosophy doesn't talk about stroking hair, but it does speak of timing, of restraint, of inner awareness. Epictetus once said, just because you feel the impulse doesn't mean you must act on it. Read the air, listen with your heart before moving. That's the truth. You don't touch her hair because you want to. You touch it because something in the moment asks for a gesture, quiet, intimate, and respectful. Because to a woman with depth, a well-timed stroke of the hair can be more intimate than a kiss. 4. A hand on her back, the quiet mark of a grounded man. Some gestures are so subtle they slip under the radar, but in a woman's subconscious they leave lasting imprints. One of those is this. The moment you gently place your hand on her lower back, just as you're moving through a crowd, not to claim her, not to show off, not to say she's mine, but to whisper something unspoken. I'm here. I've got this. You're safe. You're walking side by side through a busy street. You step ahead to open a door, and for a brief second, your hand touches the small of her back. Not demanding, just guiding, just present. It lasts a second, maybe two, but the sensation lingers long after. Because women don't need you to be loud or dominant. They just want to feel that you're aware, that you're calm, that you move with intention, not impulse. Some men overdo it. They touch in ways that feel possessive, as if to say, you belong to me. Others hold back completely, fearing rejection, overthinking every move. But a grounded man, he's not stuck between action and hesitation. He acts when the moment is right. He pauses when she's not ready. And he doesn't need applause for either. Marcus Aurelius once said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. And sometimes being one looks like this. A quiet hand on her back as you walk beside her. Not eager, not hesitant, just steady, just present. It's not the touch that matters. It's the energy behind it. Because women don't just listen with their ears. They don't just see with their eyes. They feel, deep in their nervous system, who you are and whether you can walk beside them in this chaotic world without making them feel unsafe. When your presence says, I lead but I don't control. I notice but I don't push. I protect without needing praise. She'll feel it. Not consciously, not immediately, but in the way she exhales near you, in the way her body relaxes beside yours, and that more than any grand gesture is what keeps her close. 5. Be the man she can lean on, even in the middle of chaos. There's a primal urge in many men, whether they admit it or not, to protect the woman they love. Not with muscle, not with dominance, but with calm, with clarity, with the strength to stay still when everything else begins to spiral. A woman doesn't need you to fix all her problems. In fact, when she's overwhelmed, emotionally, hormonally, mentally, what she often longs for is something far simpler than most men realize. Someone who doesn't run. Someone who doesn't rush to fix her. Someone steady enough to stay. Without being swallowed, she might lash out. She might cry for reasons she can't explain. She might withdraw into silence. You don't need to understand it all. You just need to not get swept away by it. A real man doesn't make her feel worse for having emotions. He doesn't disappear. He doesn't fight back. He doesn't escalate the storm. He just remains, still grounded, present, like a rock in the middle of crashing waves. And because he doesn't waver, she can finally let go. She can soften. She no longer has to be the strong one. Seneca once wrote, "No man becomes wise by accident. Stability is forged, not given." Being her protector doesn't mean becoming her emotional dumpster. You are not there to be insulted, manipulated, or made to carry the wounds she hasn't healed. You're there because you know how to protect your own boundaries too. And that's the key. You don't protect her by sacrificing yourself. You protect her by anchoring in the steady energy you've built. Through years of discipline, through a life lived with intention, she will feel that. Not with words, but in her body. If you're truly present, if you stay grounded without being pulled into her storm, sooner or later she will begin to trust you. And trust sounds like this. Next to you, I'm allowed to be soft. I don't have to hold everything alone anymore. You become the man she chooses, not because you solve every problem, but because you don't get lost in them. 6. The beard. Not just appearance, but a silent signal. Many believe that to attract a woman, a man needs to look put together. Clean clothes, subtle cologne, a tidy face. And yes, appearance matters, but only on the surface. Real attraction comes from something deeper, from how you choose to present yourself, even in the smallest things. Like your beard. To some, it's just facial hair, but to a man who knows who he is, his beard becomes a quiet statement of maturity, discipline, and self-respect. Not every woman is into beards. Some prefer clean-shaven. Some love the rugged look. Some don't care either way. But one thing remains true. A well-kept beard sends a message without saying a word. It says, I'm past the age of seeking praise. I don't need approval to feel confident. I'm living in alignment with who I am. Because the beard itself isn't what makes you attractive. It's the energy behind it. A messy, neglected beard suggests apathy. A carefully trimmed one reflects intention. It shows a man who takes care of himself, who knows what he's doing, who isn't drifting through life unconsciously. Epictetus once said, know who you are, then adorn yourself accordingly. That's the point. You don't grow a beard because it's trendy. You don't copy someone else's look. You grow it or shave it because it reflects your truth. And when a woman senses that kind of inner alignment in the way you speak, the way you dress, the way you show up, she feels drawn to you, not because of your style, but because you're clear and you're not hiding. And sometimes when she runs her hand along your jaw, that rough texture isn't just about physical sensation. It's the contrast between soft and firm, feminine and masculine, between who she is and who you are. That contrast, more than similarity, is what creates attraction. So, whether you grow a beard or not, the real question is, are you living in truth? Are you showing the world who you are and honoring that image with quiet discipline? Because in the realm of instinct and emotion, a man who knows his presence and lives in line with it leaves a far deeper imprint than any clever pickup line ever could. 7. Shared laughter, the language of unguarded connection. When do you find a woman most beautiful? Maybe when she wears that dress you like. Maybe when she smiles shyly, with light makeup and lowered eyes. But have you noticed that sometimes the moment that stays with you the longest is when she laughs, really laughs? Not the polite kind, not the forced, I'm being nice kind, but the kind that bursts from her belly, the kind that makes her tilt her head, reach out to touch you without realizing it, the kind that melts all distance instantly. And if you've ever witnessed that kind of laughter, you know, laughing with a woman is one of the most intimate experiences you can share. Laughter isn't just joy. Biologically, it releases oxytocin, the same bonding hormone released through touch. It creates warmth, safety, and connection without even needing to lay a hand on her. Most men don't realize this. They get caught up in trying to impress, to be clever, to look mysterious. But the men women remember are the ones who made them laugh freely, who made them forget they were supposed to be careful. You don't need to be a comedian. You just need to be present enough to notice what others miss. You need the courage to poke gentle fun at yourself, to loosen the room, to invite lightness, a playful line when she's being too serious, a knowing glance that says, "I'm teasing," without needing to grin too wide, a moment when the two of you break into laughter over something silly that no one else even noticed. In a world that takes itself too seriously, that kind of shared laughter feels like magic. She won't remember exactly what you said, but she'll remember the feeling, the way her shoulders relaxed, the way her guard slipped away, the way you made the world feel just a little softer. Marcus Aurelius once said, "True strength isn't found in sternness, but in the ability to turn heaviness into lightness." So don't underestimate laughter. It doesn't make you weaker. It shows that you're secure enough not to need constant seriousness, because a man who can laugh without losing his depth is the kind of man who makes life feel easier to breathe. And that more than charm or looks is why she'll want to stay. 8. Dreams. They don't have to be loud, but they must be real. A man without a dream is like a boat without a rudder. It floats for a while, then crashes into rocks. He meets a woman he truly likes, but it falls apart, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know where he was going. Women rarely say this out loud, but deep inside they're always watching quietly. Is he building something? Is there a path guiding him? One where I'm not the center, but simply a part. You don't have to be a successful entrepreneur or a dreamy writer with his head in the clouds, but you do have to be moving toward something bigger than yourself. A man becomes attractive, not because he has achievements, but because every step he takes toward his dream carries weight, carries purpose. You want to know what draws women to you in ways they can't explain. It's when your eyes light up while talking about something that stirs your soul. It's when you leave a date early, not because you're bored, but because something meaningful is calling you. And that's something, it's not about money, not about status. It's the thing that calls you every day, even when no one else believes in it. Most men, when they fall in love, center their entire world around the woman. They think, if I care enough, if I do enough, she'll stay. But the truth is, the less you have outside of her, the easier it is for her to leave. Because no woman wants to be your everything. She wants to be part of your becoming. When you live with purpose, when you don't lose yourself to keep someone else, when you dare to put your path ahead of your temporary emotions, she will begin to respect you. And from that respect, love finds space to breathe. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What stands in the way is the way." Your dream doesn't have to be crystal clear. It just needs to be real. Something that wakes you up in the morning, even when no one's watching. Even when you're alone. And if you're living like that, she might not say it aloud, but she will watch. She will feel drawn. Because deep down, every woman longs to walk beside a man who's moving forward, not one who only stands still in the name of love. 9. Listening, not to respond, but to truly be present. There is a kind of silence that's rare. Not the silence of indifference, but the silence of someone who's fully listening, with their body, with their presence, with their heart. And for a woman, there is no greater gift. Men often listen to reply, to argue, to fix. But women, they don't speak to be fixed. They speak to be felt, to know that someone is truly there, not drifting, not distracted, just with them. Want to know how to make a woman feel deeply connected? It's not with gifts, not with poetic words. It's when she shares something seemingly small, and you don't interrupt. You don't glance at your phone. You don't rush to offer advice. You stay. You hold eye contact. And without saying much, you let her feel, "I'm not going anywhere." A man who knows how to listen doesn't speak a lot. But every nod, every pause, every quiet gaze says, "I'm here." Not out of politeness, but because you matter. When you listen deeply, you don't just understand her story. You hear the fear behind her sigh. You notice the silence that follows. When she says, "It's nothing really," you remember what she said 3 weeks ago, and you bring it up just when she needs to hear it. And here's the beauty. A woman's body responds to being understood. She softens. She lowers her guard. She begins to feel safe, not because you're strong, but because you're present. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we may listen more and talk less." But truthfully, few are patient enough to truly listen, because real listening requires letting go of ego, of needing to be right, of rushing to fix what you don't fully understand. It asks for stillness, for grounded awareness, And that is the quiet kind of power that lingers. You don't need to say, "I understand you." She'll feel it. In the silence you hold without pulling away. In the way your presence doesn't leave, even when the conversation gets heavy. In a world full of noise, a man who truly listens is the one she never forgets. That spontaneity, not to rebel, but to keep the fire alive. Let's be honest. Have you ever felt like your life has become a bit too safe? Everything in order, schedules neatly followed. Life is stable, predictable, comfortable. And yet something's cooling off, quietly, slowly. No one mentions it, but it's there. And your relationship starts to reflect that same rhythm. Stable but uninspired, close but lacking spark, familiar but no longer thrilling. What many men don't realize is this. Women don't drift away because you did something wrong. They drift because you stopped. You stopped looking at her like it was the first time. You stopped asking, "Want to try something new tonight?" You stopped surprising her with a kiss just because. Spontaneity isn't recklessness. It's a sign that you're still alive, still feeling, still willing to break routine not for attention but for joy. It's an unplanned evening walk, taking a left turn instead of the usual right, telling her a story you've never shared, or looking at her suddenly completely, as if you just found something rare and beautiful again. These little moments, tiny unscripted, are what hold a woman close, because in a world of repetition, we all long for reminders that we can still be moved. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What blocks the path is the path." Don't let stability become an excuse to lose the most alive part of yourself. Yes, be the one she can lean on, but also be the one who makes her whisper. You always find a way to keep things interesting. You don't need elaborate plans, just awareness and the courage to create a moment that wasn't on the calendar, not to make her stay, but to keep yourself awake, to remain the man who knows how to turn an ordinary evening into something quietly unforgettable. Because in the end, the most magnetic men aren't the ones with all the answers. They're the ones who can still make life feel, even in a single unexpected embrace. Conclusion, you don't have to try to be loved. You just have to truly show up. You might reach the end of these 10 insights and think, that's it? That's all? And yes, none of this is complicated. But that doesn't mean it's easy. Because what women truly crave isn't something loud or flashy. It's the depth you express in the quietest of moments. A touch with intention, a teasing word that expects no reply, a gaze that listens, a dream you chase even when no one understands, a spontaneous turn just to make her laugh. These things might seem scattered, but together they paint a portrait of a man who doesn't need to prove anything, a man who lingers in memory, not because he spoke the most, not because he looked the best, but because he made her feel something deep in her body. Because with him, she felt seen. She felt understood. She felt like she could finally let go, without fear of being judged. The world is full of people trying to win someone over, but far too few know how to make someone want to stay. And if you've read this far, maybe you don't need more advice. Maybe you just need to remember this. The man a woman stays for is not the one who makes promises. It's the one whose energy shifts, the room, the moment he walks in. Be that man, not loudly, not urgently, just fully present, every day, in a way no one else can imitate. And if something in you resonates with what you've just heard, hit follow on Light of Wise Elders. This space is for men who want to live deeply truthfully and grow into better versions of themselves, one quiet step at a time,